Hey guys, I'm going to see if I can bring Shawn Kitzman on. And where is he at?
Hey, I've never done it from this side before. I've only done it from your side.
I like this better, and one of the reasons is, and that's me being picky, it puts us at the same level.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's something weird. It's like I'm on the big screen, and you're on this little.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I took a little bit longer. I had a business phone call. I got kind of sidetracked and swamped in.
Yeah, no, we're good. No worries.
Yeah. So what's been going on with you?
Oh, not too much. We just went out and got some. We're gonna make shepherd's pie for dinner, so had to go out and get some stuff, and then we'll watch the Super Bowl here in a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
I don't even
So
know what
yeah,
to start.
yeah. Game starts at 5:30. So
Yeah.
5:30 Central Time. So
I grew up in Louisiana, and
yeah,
the
yeah.
Saints apparently stripped, and yeah. So everybody in Louisiana is pouring hot sauce in their eyes, and yeah, having a crying match. So
Yeah, it's really funny. I'm from Michigan originally, and so Michigan and Purdue, which is where Drew Brees went to college, that was a really big rivalry when Brees was in college because he was a really good quarterback. And so it's been kind of fun to watch Brees, through his career, and then Brady went to Michigan, so that's been really entertaining to watch as well. So I'm a bandwagon Pats fan because as soon as Brady's gone, I'm out. So. Yeah,
are you a
and
fair
like
weather
my
friend?
what's that?
Are you a fair weather friend? Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, for the Pats, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, it was they played the Bears, the '85 Bears, and like, if you're from the Midwest and when you were a kid, I mean, who couldn't resist the Super Bowl shuffle? So when they played the Pats, I was just like, I hope this team from New England just dies. So yeah, and then when they wound up killing him in the Super Bowl, I was like, well, this is cool. So, and then they weren't good forever. The Pats weren't good forever until they were decent before Brady was there because they were just kind of like building. But they got Brady and Belichick, put the system in, and now it's what they are. So.
So what's been up in massage land with you? What's been going on?
Well, so in my personal practice or my private practice, I've been just hammering away at anatomy and motion for about the last year and a half,
Yeah.
um, and really trying to get the model down and putting it together. And I'm really feeling like I've gotten it somewhat down. I'm going to take MoveNat. MoveNat's coming to Minneapolis in March, so I'm going to take that, and I'm really transitioning out of like pretty much altogether soft tissue release and really moving into movement retraining, some specific soft tissue release. Like I had a client that came in last week. I've seen her twice now, and we had to do some scar work on her, and I combined some scar tissue release and then some neurokinetic therapy to kind of like figure out which direction and vector to release the scar into. And so I do like really specific, release with NKT if I need to, just to test out and see where the motor control patterns are. And then I'm really just moving towards movement reprogramming, and then I'm going to start doing some actual conditioning programming for my triathletes. I want to take a select group of them and kind of create this exclusive package for them where they come see me once or twice a month and I program for them. So that's been the really big like last year and a half to 2 years, and it'll take me like another year and a half to 2 years to really kind of get everything into place and get it down. So
I think the
yeah.
work is ongoing. I was actually having like the thought in my head when I was thinking about doing this with you. So many massage therapists seem to want to be like the jack of all trades and master of none. Whereas
Yeah.
like when I see your advice, you're like, no, I do this one thing. And I go,
Yeah.
there was a restaurant, there was a food truck in Austin years ago called The Odd Duck. They may still exist, but they were renowned, and there was a little food truck, so they don't have like brick and mortar overhead.
Sure.
Just these guys can play. They're getting farm fresh produce, know the farmers, whatever. They would make like, oh, dude, it was like a fried egg, like a fried duck egg on a Parmesan disc with, truffle, it was awesome. It was like
Yeah.
restaurant quality, 5-star, 5-course meal food that you eat at a picnic table.
Yeah.
But they did so well with just 5 dishes or whatever.
Right.
Like they don't have a big menu. They can't even do
Right.
that. But they did things really, really well. And that's more the model you and I seem to have like taken on in private practice.
Yeah. In the beginning, like, my ADD was rampant like crazy, right? Like, so I tried everything. And when I tell you I tried everything, I really legit tried everything that I could possibly get my hands on in 2000, 2001, 2002. Like, I probably would have went down 1,000 rabbit holes with the internet. Like, if I was in practice in early in my practice. The other thing, I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday with ADD, is that, like, there's this hyper focus thing, right? And so things like anatomy and motion, or like neurokinetic therapy was for me when I first took it, it required so much of my attention that I really loved it, because it required so much of my attention. And it was also within a scope where there was some creativity involved in it as well. And yeah, I mean, you'd think after 18, almost 19 years, I'd have it all figured out and that I wouldn't change it all. But I don't, in probably another 5 years, I'll probably, change again. Because why I got here was I just wasn't seeing the outcomes that I wanted to. And it's not that I wasn't good at doing massage. I mean, like, I did it for 12 years. I lie to people and tell them that I'm not good at massage, so I don't have to do it anymore. But like, people think that I'm not good at it, and that's not true. I was good at it. I mean, I built a whole practice around it. But I wasn't seeing the outcomes that I wanted, I wasn't happy with the 30% that I couldn't figure out. And I think there's always that 20 to 30%, but like now the 20 to 30% is really, really complex stuff, whereas before it was like, yeah, I don't know if I should release the psoas or have him strengthen the psoas. I mean, I don't know if, like, oh man, I released the psoas in this guy and he felt better, but I released the psoas in this guy and he felt worse. Why is that? Oh, let's go back and release the psoas again on him. Well, that didn't work. And I didn't have any answers for it. So it's really just outcome based. And then I just like to learn too. I mean, like, that's, I wish, sometimes that I didn't, and I wished I could be like boring like that, but it's why I would get my ass kicked at jiu-jitsu. I mean, like, I had my jiu-jitsu training partner over this morning, and 4 months ago, we bought an instructional, and we're still working on the first quarter of the instructional. We meet once a week for 1.5 to 2 hours, and then we go put it into play when we go roll or spar. So, yeah, I mean, you should be forever being a student.
I appreciate a challenge, and I think when I'm not challenged is when I get soft.
Yeah.
Intellectually. Like, if it's 80%, it's good enough.
Yeah.
They constantly seem to want to integrate new information. Like, I'll see you talk about things because stuff that I don't, related to like neurokinetic therapy, muscle testing, and then I see you doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm like, man, I need to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it transforms the nature of our work when we are physical and then help people of different physical disciplines.
So I just had this big epiphany, and I'm finally putting together like these two things. And I've been practicing martial arts since 1992. And I've kind of, like, spattered around, and it all conceptually makes sense to me. But I've never put them together in a way concretely that I really understood. And anatomy and motion helped me out with this. And then also I went to a seminar 2 or 3 weekends ago with this 24-year-old stud. His name is Gordon Ryan. He's just setting the jiu-jitsu world on fire, and everybody hates him because he's super cocky and arrogant, but he's a really super nice guy. It's just for the show, right? And so I watched him do this particular move called a heel hook. And the way that I initially learned the heel hook is not the same way that Gordon was doing the heel hook. And so as I started to watch it, because the heel hook, when it's done well, actually attacks the knee. It's not the heel. And you'll legit tear ACLs with a heel hook. And so he was way at the distal end of the foot. And then he trapped the hip. And so when you trap the distal end of the foot and then you trap the hip, the knee then becomes a transverse plane or a rotational joint, and it's not supposed to be, because it's just supposed to hinge, right? And I figured out the same thing for the arm as well. So, you're going to trap the scapula, and you're going to try and get as low on the wrist as you possibly can. And then that doesn't matter if you're doing Kimuras or arm bars or Americanas, and you have to take all of the slack out of the scapula. It either has to be pushed up or pulled down. The scapula can't move at all. And I was sitting there with my training partner who does kettlebells, and he's kind of a movement guy as well. And I just had this big brain explosion. I was like, dude, all we have to do is just get the distal and the proximal end, and then the knee will just blow up, and I was really excited about it. Yeah. And it helped me to understand some of the other work that I'm doing as well. I had a client come in last week, and she has all this elbow stuff. And I'm like, look, I don't think your elbow stuff is really elbow stuff. I think it's shoulder shit. I think it's stuff going on in your shoulder, because it's just the middle joint. It just flexes and extends. If the stuff upstairs is doing what it needs to do, then the elbow doesn't really come into play until you actually ask it to flex and extend. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's in my jiu-jitsu coach. I tell him all the time, I'm like, Coach, you don't understand. You understand biomechanics. I learned biomechanics from that guy in a way that, there's nobody on the face of the planet that could teach biomechanics like this, because he's wrestled for so long and he's done martial arts for most of his life, and he just gets it. When he puts something on you, it's on now. There's no second guessing it. Oh yeah, that works. And so it's really cool to kind of put those two things together, to put the bodywork together and then put the combat over the more, breaking art, I guess, if you want to call it. So it's a pretty cool thing. It's pretty fun to watch.
When you are working with therapists these days, I would say more as a coach, because your practice is so kind of disparate now. It's almost like, I don't know, I don't want to call it this because I don't want to pigeonhole you, but mobility coaching.
Yeah.
Does it give you a better vantage point to be able to help therapists with their practices?
Yeah, because I went down the traditional route, and I was, I made it 12 years. I think that's successful, and then I left, I kind of branched out more, and I started working with athletes more, and I really got into a market niche that I really enjoyed. And yeah, it does help to do that. And I don't believe that market niche is for everyone, because I think you have to get really, I think you have to want to get really super dorky and meta with stuff. And that's just not for everybody. But yeah, it does help. It does help because I'm outside of it, and I've done it, when people will say well, no, but nobody's doing that. Well, no, you're lying now, because I did it. So now one person, it's possible. And so it does really help people because I can talk about this, man, when I came home from Anatomy in Motion, I had built up a really nice stable practice here. And I was I'd been here for 1.5 years in Minnesota at that point in time. No, about a year. And I was no, I come home and this is what I'm doing now. And so, I went through a bit of an attrition. So I know what it means to decide that you're going to change directions and how scary it is, and what happens to your practice a little bit. And you're going to lose some clients, because anytime you make change, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to lose clients. And change that really matters to you. I'm not talking about changing sheets or lotion and shit. Things that people think are really important that aren't, Yeah.
One of the things I had a thought about is, I think sometimes, based on the conversations we've had previously, we have a very wide mental scope. I could just as easily talk about Seth Godin or Krishnamurti or Bruce Lee or, stuff. that you would riff on in a different way. And when I looked at my curriculum recently, because the Thai massage curriculum I made is done. We're waiting on the DVDs to actually arrive in the mail. So it's
super
done.
cool.
It's done. I don't have to keep talking about Thai massage, Thai massage, Thai massage. Now I can move on. And we declined on the trademark on Reboot, but I just like, no, you pick a new name, you move on. And then I started looking at it because I took another class recently, and I went, there's a challenge for me as an educator in how do I make steps that a therapist can easily take to get where I think they can improve where they want to be. And part of that is just getting them on a mat and getting them with clients with their clothes on, which is a huge shift. And I'm going, I mean, we had debates. We had a class in my home studio, and one of my teaching assistants and I were kind of going at it because she has different ideas of how I should make it more table and more cream and more glide and transition them. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I need 300 Spartans, not the Persian Empire.
Right.
Like, you have to, you know, like CrossFit didn't say, hey, we're going to make it more approachable by adding Zumba classes.
Right. Right. And the boxes that would have died, actually, you know, because they would have gotten so far away from the model and the brand.
Yeah. But the incremental, when I look at it, I go, okay, you've developed this stuff. And this is what confuses people, because when I say I developed this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I wrote all this. Now let's move beyond it. And they're like, wait, but you're not. And I'm like, no. It's an art. It evolves.
Yeah.
This is biomechanically a foundation, but like, let's expand on it. And I don't want to get pigeonholed.
Yeah.
But there also comes that piece where you're trying to figure out how do you put it together in a way that's easy for therapists to pick up and use so that, you know, they help their clients more rapidly. They make more income rapidly so that they have more options. Because if there's nearly an immediate sort of proof of product, I feel like they're more amenable to it. I think the challenge is, instead of just giving them 1 or 2 changes, I come in and go, well, here's 10. And to get through all of these layers, it's too far. It's too big a chasm.
Yeah, when I first took NKT in 2012, I was the first person in the Midwest to host David Weinstock. When I hosted David, you know, like I'm sitting there because it was a 3-day course at that time. It was Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm watching the slides, the intro slides, and I'm just like, oh, Jesus, what did I get myself into here, right? And so for people like me, and I'm going to assume probably people like you, we're not, you know, risk isn't a scary thing for us. And so, you know, like I just came in the next day and I was like, okay, all my new clients, this is what I'm doing. I'm not doing the other thing. Like, that's it. And then I have friends of mine who have taken a much slower approach to that because they're just so much more, you know, and I think the thing that people don't understand is that new clients don't know, right?
Yeah.
They've only heard from their friends or their coworkers or their family members. Like, you need to go see this person's good. And so you're borrowing on the credibility from that person. And obviously, you know, you just don't want to trash their credibility, but you're borrowing on the credibility. And someone who's never seen you before and doesn't know who you are, if they come into you off the, you know, off an ad or something like that, they don't know either. Unless you're like saying, you know, here we go, super luxurious spa massage, and you come and put them on a mat, and you're like, no, we're gonna do Thai massage. You know, it has to be congruent enough with who you are and your message, so that you can. Because what my client saw when I did NKT was, it was the delivery method that helped me to do the things that we were attempting to do better. Yeah. So while they were like, what is this thing that you're doing? And I'm like, no. Just trust me for a moment, right? Like, just look, just bear with me. You don't know, you know me. If you've been with me as a client for, you know, a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years for some of those people, or 12 years for some of those people, like, you know that I just don't arbitrarily just change stuff. You know, like, yes, I'm very, I like and adapt to change well, but like in my business and for my clients, like, I'm just not changing stuff to change it. So just give me a second. And so what they saw was that, because it was congruent with who I was and what I was doing already, that change wasn't that big for them. And then again, with new clients, they don't know. They don't know. So you just bring them in. So whether it's, you're going to do Thai massage that day, or you're going to increase your rates, or you're going to change an appointment time. Like earlier this year, mid 2018, I was like, yeah, I'm going from half hour to 45-minute sessions. And so all new clients, that's what you get. I'm doing an hour and a half intake. I went from an hour to an hour and a half intake. Like all new clients, that's what you get. New clients don't know, and that's what I'm doing because why? I'm the professional. And that's the thing that I think people forget is we're the professionals, right?
The ongoing quest to make it better.
Yeah, and that's all it is.
They're going, but Robert, it's good enough. And I'm like, no. And until they put me in a box,
right?
Like I've got to keep improving somehow.
Yeah.
And even for my own mental health, as much as like the care of the clients.
And you know what'll happen is you'll have original students, or generations of students, because you'll evolve into this, as you hit these kind of evolutionary peaks, you'll have generations of students. So when I taught martial arts, at my I taught for a real short period of time from 97 to 2000. And then I taught again from 2005 to 2009, like on my own. I teach at my jiu-jitsu school that I'm actually a student at now. I teach a foundations MMA class. But when I was teaching my own curriculum, I had generations of students. And so they would sometimes argue about, well, he did it this way and he did it this way. And I'm like, who cares? This is where we are today. It doesn't matter, right? Like there's no reason to get into this pissing contest. But what happens is everybody wants to, they want to justify the material that they were shown. And I mean, like some of the stuff when I just researched, and the changes that I make in my practice are far less chaotic than I made in teaching. Like I dumped a whole curriculum. Like I just said, okay, this one's done. I don't like this one anymore. I've rewritten it. Here's what we're doing now. And so, I think that as an educator, I think it's important to, and that's a mark of a good educator, by the way. The mark of a bad educator, what I always used to tell my students, or I tell my clients now, is like, hey, look, if I ever come in and tell you I have it all figured out, we don't need to learn anymore, you need to run as quickly away from me as you can. Because I've drank enough of my own Kool-Aid, now I'm lying to you.
There are some interesting themes. I've always felt like even though we have different practices and maybe different mental sets, that we had like a strong allegiance somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
Based on some marketing principles, some like dedication to practice and ongoing development. And then when it came to business, I think one of the things that's happened when we talked about perspective, and I was asking as a coach, does it help you have more perspective for the students, the coaches, the clients that you get? And I think that's what happened for me. Like I can give therapists, okay, here's how I'm doing the body work. This is how you get started. And then I give them some tips and tricks and stuff with the business, and that's where it starts to unravel. You're like, oh, this is work. And I go, yes, doing what you want for a living and being your own boss and calling your own shots is work.
It should be. Yeah, and it should be, damn it, because it's a privilege. Like you get to, like when you do the stuff, when you're kind of a derelict like you and I are, like you get to do things that nobody else gets to do, right? Like nobody gets to do, like very few people get to do what they love to do. We have a 13-year-old son and he wants to do music for life. Right? Like that's what he wants to do. And of course, I'm like, okay, well, I get it. But look, here's the thing that you need to understand about this. If you get to do that, it's a privilege. And because of that, it's going to be hard work. And it's going to be work at a different capacity than someone who goes and punches a clock from 9 to 5. And, yeah, and it's a variance. There's a variance of difficulty, and it's hard getting started. When you start your practice, like it's hard, but as you go along, and it gets to be easy again. And I always know when it gets to be easy, like something's coming around the corner. Like this last summer, I was like, oh man, I've really got the model nailed down. I mean, I feel like I'm really doing well here, you know? I like God. And I said to my friend Marcia, who I sublease from or I rent from, I said to her, I was like, man, I'm not really happy with this now. Because I know around the corner is going to be like suck city. Like it's going to get to be really tough again because I've just peeled back a layer I get. Now I get to play with a little bit. And because of that, the type of clientele that I'm getting in now, they're going to see that, oh, Shawn's evolving. I'm just going to refer him someone that's really difficult. And then I'm going to go back to being not good again. And so there's this kind of up and down, right?
In the end, it's like the barometer of success. Is it money? Is it happiness?
Right.
Is it personal development? Is it time with your family and kids? Is it some people, like when they start to talk about work-life balance, I literally start to go, wait, what? There are days I work for myself a lot.
Right.
And I go, what day is it? And they're like, you don't know what day it is? And I'm like, it's just the work day to me. And it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, just,
right.
But the thing is, here's what happened for me. When I finally worked for myself 5 or 6 years ago, when I was finally completely in private practice, one pivotal thing that shifted for me was my sleep patterns. And I said, okay, I'm not going to see a client until 11 a.m.
Yeah.
If I wake at 10, I can have a shower, have coffee. I'll be awake at 11. That's a better time for me. When I was in school, my entire life, they're like, what's wrong with you? Like, you need to get up. And I'm like, my biorhythms, it's just not my time of day. And here's what happened. I would get up sometimes at 11 o'clock on a weekend, see a couple of clients, take a nap.
Sure.
And then get up and work for 3 or 4 hours in the evening till 2 o'clock in the morning. But I was insanely productive. My productivity levels were really, really high because if I got tired, I took a nap. I'm my own boss. If I was, too tired to see a client, I didn't book a client that day. I could take off. Just little things like that. It's hard to describe to people who have a regimented 9-to-5 work life.
Oh yeah, it like we were out with some friends last night, and we were talking about kind of my role in the house because I'm kind of Mr. Mom, right? So like if people looked at my schedule, they would tell you there's no way that like I made what I made last year, right? So we've been here. This will be my 3rd year here in August, and last year I made 50,000, right? Now I work 4 days. I work Tuesday through Friday. Wednesday and Friday, I don't go in until 1. I'm never at the office later than 6. There's about a 45-minute to an hour window in the middle of the day from like 2:30 to 3:30 that I go and pick up Gabe and drop him off at home. I go get him from school and I drop him off at home. So like if people really looked at my schedule, they would be like, there's no way that you made that in that little amount of time with that chaotic schedule. No, yeah, I do. I just don't give people options, and so you have to find what's in. That's where I'm at right now in my life. And when we moved here, when I first started dating Melissa, Gabe was 3.5. And as we dated more and as his biological father's not in the picture. So as we dated more, it became a conversation between Melissa and I, like, look, at some point in time, if it's possible, I want to adopt Gabe. And so, and as that started to happen, like, I wanted to be the best dad I possibly could be to this young man, right? Like, because now I'm promising him to be his dad, right? And so, like, I radically had to change the way that I behaved because I was teaching until 7 or 8 at night. But that meant I wouldn't get home until 8:30, 8:45, and then he's either in bed or going to bed. And so I wasn't seeing him at all. And so I had to drop one of the nights that I was teaching. And then I eventually closed down the school because for some reasons, because I wasn't making a ton of money. And I recognized that it was my season to be a father and a husband. And in 5 years, when Gabe's 18 and he's in college or traveling across Europe with his guitar, I don't know what the hell he does, right? But in that time frame, I'll have another season, right? Because my primary role isn't dad any longer. It's still a role for me, but it's not. And so I think you really have to adapt, and you have to figure out what your cycle is, right? Like currently right now, jiu-jitsu is a really important thing to me. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm at the gym in the morning. I figured it out and built a lifestyle to where I can train and it doesn't really impact my family. And so I think that you have to do that, because then I think what you're talking about for you is like when you talk about work-life balance, you have work-life balance. Now, it doesn't seem balanced to other people, but it's balanced to you because it works for you.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't necessarily work for me, and it might not work for somebody else, but it works for you. You know?
It's also a matter of, when I talk to massage therapists, I think this is a disparate conversation. If I talk about retirement, they go, what?
Right.
My model is I work till I'm dead. And I'm like, no. Like, once you acquire money, you can invest. And investing happens in all sorts of ways that even I don't fully understand yet. But being able to put yourself in a position to have better problems. Does that mean taking on employees? Does that mean, contracting a space and like taking renters? There are lots of different ways for a little side income or to allow your business to grow. Most of my students, what I get consistently is they go, when are you going to open a brick and mortar? And I go, why? And they go, well, that's because that's what you do. And I go, no, I have a school online that we can scale information worldwide. And they go, I don't understand. And I'm like, I know, but brick and mortar means overhead, payroll taxes, cleaning, developing, like ongoing maintenance and advertising and, all the stuff.
And all of those things limit your growth as a teacher too, right? Because then you become a slave to the brick and mortar. Right now, you can change because your overhead is so low. Yes. I mean, it's so much more dynamic. And what we're going to find is that, the model that you're actually doing for CEUs is going to be the model of the future, right? Like, and I mean, my wife went to Georgetown. She went to Georgetown University for her nurse practitioner and nurse midwife, program. But she did mostly online classes. She was at Georgetown 3 times in the 2.5 years that she was there. Now, she had to go find someone to apprentice on her, right? Like, so she had to go find someone that she could shadow or do clinical rotations with. And Georgetown had those things set up, and she had to set some of those things up herself. But she's neither any better or any worse of a midwife because her program was online than the people that were at Georgetown or at University of Minnesota or at University of Texas or wherever it is.
I mean, I had a conversation years ago with my wife, and she said, "Baby, you told me you couldn't teach online." Because my practice had developed, and she was going, "Well, you told me." And I said, I was right. I was absolutely right, and I had a completely limited perception of what was going on because I can teach 80% of what I do worldwide.
Right.
And 80% of what we do worldwide is an astronomically large number that fuels everything else. It's not either or. It's not like I'm not teaching in person and not developing a practice. I have the same thing you do because when you talk about the results you're getting and the way you're developing, it's made me want to look at muscle testing, NKT, other stuff more to try to supplement my curriculum and supplement what I'm doing with clients because I'm looking for more, just like you. I'm trying to find, man, why did that knee pain come back? Like, why are they having a problem with adductors or whatever? The ongoing evolution, I just realized at a certain point, the real genius was what Gary Vee calls document the process.
Yeah.
And it was pressing the button on the camera and going, I don't know, let's figure it out. And you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And then the students are going, I don't understand. You won't open a place, but you keep making all these videos. And I go, yes.
You're right.
This is not 1985.
Right.
We release a video a day on Facebook and YouTube, and that's probably not going to slow down. It'll probably ramp up even more because the other piece, and what I think is really interesting, like one of my yoga students, she was like, "But Robert, like, don't you want to help people?" And I'm like, "Tony, I'm helping people worldwide, like develop new skills, teaching them new stuff. Like I'm providing the providers now.
Right.
I'm not just not as fixated on like running ads to get more clients because that's a
Right.
very limited amount of outreach. The other thing that happens is as I build online platforms and education, it means, yeah, we can press a button and do a Facebook Live, but I can float you through my email list.
Right.
I can say, listen, sustainable coaching practices, that's your business, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like, here's a link to him. Here's a link to his website. Here's the link to his videos. And go do some more good stuff. The capacity to do good, I think, increases with more resources and more creative ways of using your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, when you look at the duration of a career and what happens because so many people don't make it in the industry is we don't really have, and also, by the way, this profession is about maybe 50 years old. I mean, I guess if you want to go back and talk about, you know, Ida Rolf and Feldenkrais and, you know, some of those other people, but it's maybe 50, maybe 100 years old as a profession. So, and it's always been on the back burner for everything. We live in the best time ever in the history of our profession to be a professional. Like, it's more widely accepted. There's so much more information out there for us. Man, when I went to school in 97, holy shit, information moved at a snail's pace, right? I mean, like, there's the change that we have in the industry today within the last 10 years is exponentially more. The inclusion that we have now into CEUs alone, right? Now you can go take a CEU and there's a yoga practitioner and a Pilates instructor and a personal trainer and a physical therapist and a chiropractor and a massage therapist. You know, it's like one of the old bad jokes, you know, a Catholic, a Jew, and a Protestant all walk into the bar. I mean, like it's one of the old bad jokes, right? But now we get that. And there's no way that could have happened. There's no way it could have happened 15 to 20 years ago. And so we don't really have a scale and understanding of what a career should look like because there's so few of us that A, actually have made it that far, and B, who actually want to talk about it and help people out. Because one of the reasons that I started coaching was because I was mentoring therapists and I was like, God, man, like nobody wants to help you out. Like the first therapist that I really, really mentored, we met like this our third time and we were out at coffee and she goes, why are you doing this? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, we should be a competition. I said, yeah, but we're not. I pee standing up and you pee sitting down. So that means that we're not competition. The clients that you have exponentially a much larger clientele base that would come to see you. I want to work on athletes. You're still trying to figure out who you want to work on. Like, we're not competition. And by the way, you're a nice person and I like you. I'd like to see you make it. And I think that I can help you out with it. And very few of us do that. Because what you see is in the forums, like, you know, people talk about massage coaches and, you know, people want to tear them down and get out the pickets in the pitchforks and in the torches because it's scary to people that people might actually make it and succeed in this industry.
There's too much starvation mentality.
Yeah.
I can't look at things the way I did, you know, even 10 years ago. I just don't,
Right.
I don't live in that place anymore. I don't live in a place where I feel like I need every client. I got to have every client. Everybody I meet's got to be a client because I'm just hungry. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I can do without a meal. Gain weight. It's cool. Let me take a break.
Yeah.
And what happens is over time, the sort of target marketing, I draw clients that are amazingly like focused in on a different service, a different practitioner. They relish something that's packaged, served to them in a different way. That I'm still making, like it's still evolving, much like you talked about your practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an important thing because, you know, we're looking for, and this is really kind of, I think, you know, as we've kind of talked about on the side, this is where we've connected initially at, is we're creating art. Like the thing that I did with my client last Friday, I'll never do again, because she's going to come in next time and it's going to be different, right? And so we'll never do that thing again like that, like we did. And I think that a lot of people, they don't understand. Like, it's the reason that I say it all the time now. I'm sure people just want to shoot me. It's the reason that I love the saying that Seth has: people like us do things like this. Because we're looking for inclusion, right? We're looking for affiliation, and we're looking for people who buy into our art. My son loves all the new hippity hop. I don't like the new hippity hop. I like the old hippity hop, right? But for him and for his generation, that is good hippity hop. I don't think it's very good hippity hop. Like, I like Public Enemy hippity hop and some of the older hip hop, but for them it's good, and for them it's art. And for them, my son's kind of a little bit different, but for his friends, they don't like that older generation of music. It's just like what happened with, and Vaynerchuk said it so well, when he was talking about rap is the new rock and roll. And so, when it got far enough away from blues, in jazz, well, when it got far enough away from jazz and became blues, when it got far enough away from blues and became rock and roll, the people that were doing jazz still were like, that stuff is awful, right?
Yeah.
And so with our work, I think it's the same thing, right? And so we're not looking for everybody who wants it, because then you're not really creating art. And in the beginning, you can't do that anyways, by the way. Like, when if you look at an artist, you ask him. I had this friend of mine that he was in college, and I stopped by his dorm room one day, and he was sitting there drawing circles over and over and over and over again on like a white sheet of paper. He had like 250 circles that he was just drawing. And why is he doing that? Because he has to learn the base fundamental foundation of drawing a circle and drawing a square and drawing all the rest of those things. He has to get good at it. There's skill acquisition there. But eventually, he's going to go create something that, probably 80% of the population is going to like. So he has to find the 20% that like it. And that's the same thing with our work as we evolve.
The exploration process, I think overcoming the fear. I see lots of therapists, they're afraid. And when I say afraid, like they're afraid to change sheets.
Yeah.
They're afraid that they do the right rest. They're afraid that the cream doesn't include CBD and the people want CBD now, or whatever the new thing is.
Yeah, 20 years ago was tea tree oil, right?
Yeah, I just think there's so many pieces that when I talk to therapists, I consistently bring up the concept of brand as opposed to commodity. And it's one of the separations I've had primarily because of Godin. Godin was the first one who really, to me, he's like the philosopher king. He was the first one that explained it in a way that I went, oh, a car is a commodity. Mercedes, Lamborghini, and Porsche are brands.
Right.
A hamburger is a commodity, but In-N-Out, Burger King, and McDonald's are brands. And brands mean something. And then from that standpoint, it was, as a massage therapist, this is what always killed me. If you found a successful massage therapist, they're like, yeah, don't worry about that. And it's like, because you built successful personal brands.
Right.
And you don't even know you did it. You just had the gift of gab and the right emotional and psychological set to connect with people who then referred people to you. And then when I talk to therapists about using social media to build personal brand, they go, oh no, it's a lot of trouble. I'm going to get somebody else to do it.
Yeah. And then they're pissed because the other people don't tell the stories the way that they should. I mean, and then and they don't really understand it. And they don't understand like building the brand and using the interweb, because by the way, it's not going away. I know it's a really big shock to everybody, but it's not going anywhere, right? There's a bit of investment to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere now, right? And so, and the problem is that your generation and my generation of therapists, before it hits scale, there's still enough of us around that are, get off my lawn. This is the way we did it back in the day, and it was so much better. They romanticize about it. And I did that too, man. Like I didn't get on Facebook until 2014. Like that was 14 years into my practice. I had been on Facebook in 2008. I was promoting my martial arts school on Facebook in 2008. I didn't talk about my practice at all in 2014. And so, because I felt it was cheap, right? I felt it was like self-promotion, and that's not good. That's not true to the craft. And that's bullshit, because most people will run an ad. Well, that's self-promotion, dummy. You're just paying for it. And and by the way, you don't even get anything to say about it. You just run the ad, and it's this, massage, hot stones and bamboo massage and 15% off,
I don't have a challenge with therapists using social media or other avenues as ad platforms, but I feel like it's always that they're pitching a sale instead of offering value. And that's part of the debate. You get it on the Massage Entrepreneurs Group. People are like, I don't understand value. And I'm like, this is why you're failing.
Right.
Like marketing, the way I look at it at least, and maybe somebody else could correct me if my definition is off. There's a lot of stuff you can do in marketing that's free to very low cost that really helps you craft brand, tell stories, tweak ideas, so that by the time you've built up enough funds to be able to run an ad, you have a much better idea of what you think will work. And it's not just offering a discount, it's offering a new story.
Yeah, man. That's obviously you're just throwing me softballs here, so thanks. Because I'm gonna be all over this like crazy, right? Yeah, it's people don't understand, like the way that I look at content and I look at free content, because just recently I've wrapped my brain around this, and my kind of coalition or my collaboration with Robert, and I don't know how to say his last name still, but with him, right?
I was actually going to ask you how to say it. Is it Nobershak?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. But it's really been my conversations with him, and I we've said this on the entrepreneurs page, and I'll say this, dude, when he first got on the group, I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I hate him. He's talking about that Groupon crap, like this is garbage. And it took me seeing him like post a couple times, because I really wanted to look into it, because I was really ready to like just come through and just stab him, right? I was like, dude, I am just waiting for you to say something dumb, and I'm going to be all over you. And then I was looking at his stuff, I'm like, man, he's not saying anything dumb. And as I started to look into what he was saying, I was like, wow, there's a lot of depth to what he's saying. And so now, as much as I want to hate it, I appreciate it because there's subtlety and nuance, because that's what I'm really looking for. And so the thing that I've really looked at, and the difference between like paid content and free content is building your brand. Or like, if you spend $7 a week to just kind of drive traffic to your page or to your site or whatever it is, it's a drip method. When you spend $500 or $200 or $150 on an ad campaign, you should close on that. There should be ROI on that. So sales or paid content, you should expect to close something. But free content, you should never expect to close on free content, because that's not the idea, or that's not the delivery method for free content. Free content is to build your brand off of. It's to tell your story enough times until you get it down, because when you get it down, then other people can get it down.
Yeah. It's easier than ever to be able to collect information like an email, give away free content and information via social media, videos, blog posts, podcasts, writing, PDFs. And there's so little of it in the industry. I had a conversation with Bradford James. He's running a Thai massage gym in Denver. And he is, looking at me, I think, a bit as a mentor, and I'm trying to help him. And he's also a personal trainer. So he's got some, kind of like you, he's got a little different take on some things, and is kind of schooling me on some stuff. And as we talked, he started talking about social media as a bit younger than I am. And he was like, massage therapists aren't really using social media to produce, stuff. And I was like, Bradford, in Denver right now, I was like, how many massage therapists do you know with any regularity produce video content? And he was like, I don't know any. And I'm like, and that's why you have to be the first.
Right. Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, it's funny how we look at this internet thing as this brand new thing, right? And it really is. I mean, in the history of man, it's only been going on for 15 to 20 years, right? But like for like my son's generation, right? I mean, he doesn't know anything different. And so he's going to come up with it. It's all of the things that, they warned us about when we were younger are now starting to happen, like that computer thing. You really want to think about that computer thing. When you're 2 bit, memory. I remember when we had like 100 gig of memory and we just thought it was amazing, right? And it was 356 RAM. I mean, it was so fast, but it was all the things that they warned us about that are now coming to fruition. It just happened much later. Like AI and VR are going to do, right? I mean, because we've been as a culture, as a in our age, in our time frame of life, like VR has been flirted with how many times, right? I mean, it was in Back to the Future, right? I mean, like in the second one, I think, right? So, I mean, like they've been flirting with it for a while and we're closer now. But the thing that people don't understand is that when something gets to scale, like now we have, and now it's not new any longer in that, look, you can find lots of people that have built a business off of using the internet and sales and advertising. But it's still new enough that there's people that think that they're going to run ads in the yellow pages and still do it. I mean, like, when we have people that walk into the office from Comcast or Charter Business, I laugh at them. I'm like, how do you people even make money today? Like, who in the hell buys anything from you? Like, it doesn't, what are you going to do for me now? But there's still enough people who are on that old thing, right?
The business on an organic level hasn't really changed. It's still connecting with people, exchanging business cards, shaking hands, providing some sort of valuable service or product. What has changed is the technology and distribution on top.
Yeah.
And the connection points. Because
that's really well said.
Well, I mean, for me, the first thing I wrote was that first homicide workbook. And when I wrote this, it was really nerve-wracking because I never made something permanent because it felt permanent, like you're writing a book. It was like 54 pages. And when I had this, I had a PDF, I had a little digital file, and then people were like, "Man, you got to sell that." You spent at that time, I spent like $1,500 or $1,800.
Sure.
Somebody to design it. It was like, you'd spent all this money. What do you do with it? I'm like, can I just give it away for free?
Right.
Can I just get emails? Like they give me an email and I give them the book, like in the PDF. And I went, how much does it cost me to do? And it was like MailChimp or Constant Contact or whatever it was. It was like, it's free. Basically, once you hook it up to your website. And I went, oh, free's nice.
Right.
And all of a sudden, because I mean, I do this for a living.
Right.
But now we're in the realm of information and data. And within a month or two, we had like 2,000 downloads. And I collected all these email addresses and I went, whoa.
What am I going to do with this?
They weren't local to me. I remember we collected like the countries they were from. And I don't know exactly what happened, but somebody in Singapore got a hold of it. And then there were like 40 or 50 downloads in a row from people in Singapore. And you had that sense of, for the first time for me, digital scale. And the way that information flowed now wasn't, pre-YouTube. Like the internet and the evolution, I didn't see it. I mean, I remember having the internet for the first time around 95, 96 when I went to college. I kept pressing the button and it kept pinwheeling forever because the computer was too slow. Distribution of information to build brand, what the students keep doing is saying, but if somebody downloads my thing from Singapore, they can't be a client. And I go, yes, but they could be a fan.
Right.
Do you know what fans do online for your Instagram, Facebook?
Right.
Don't discount the potential for people to rally behind you and build connections. Which
that's a really funny thing because this just happened to me this week. So every Friday I do the Foot Friday thing, right? So I get on and I ramble on about, the foot for about somewhere between 15 minutes to a half hour. And the real reason that I did that is because I wanted to get better at how I communicated that. I don't even know if I'll get any clients out of it, like directly, right? It's just building the brand. It's free content. Like if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it, right? I mean, like one day, the first Facebook Live that Robert N and I did, we hadn't figured out that we both needed to wear headphones off of our phone, right? So there was echo, and someone they were like, "Oh, it's echoing," and I stopped and I was like, "Hold on, it's free. You can either watch it or not because it's free." Like I'm not MGM. Right? Like I'm not, I'm some dude in the middle of Minnesota, like on my phone. Like there's good content. Deal with it. It's free. I didn't take any money. Right? Yeah. And so anyways, so I do this Foot Friday thing, and a practitioner who I had met about 4 years ago in Ohio has started watching my stuff. Now, I didn't intend for her to watch it because, I haven't talked to her in 4 years. And out of the blue, on Thursday, while I was trying to get my car started because it was so damn cold here, I get a message from her. "Oh, hey, I'm sending you over this MLB pitcher." Okay. I mean, we haven't talked in 4 years. Like, it's an unintended consequence. I didn't ever think that I was going to get referred an MLB pitcher. Right? Yeah. And the therapist that sees this person on a regular basis is now following my stuff. I mean, I didn't intend for that to happen. So you don't know, you don't know, I mean, content, like Vanderchuck says, content is the gateway drug, right? I mean, like, you don't know what's going to happen. And I don't create content with the expectation of something to happen because, again, the only reason that I create content is because, A, I have an ego and I like to talk. And so, it satisfies my ego when I get one like or whatever, right? And then it also helps me to practice my pitch, right? It helps me to organize my thoughts in a way that I have to explain it to everybody else. And so there's all these unintended consequences that you won't even understand. So that person who picks up your stuff in Singapore, maybe nothing happens with it. But you also know that your work is at some level of decency, because what's happened then is that you can see that there all of a sudden it becomes viral for a second. And so you get 40 downloads. And then who knows what happens from those 40, Yeah.
The contact process and therapists I talk about video, but making stuff of something.
Whatever, yeah.
Be able to educate their audience is something I see a complete dearth of. The therapists who do it successfully are making a killing, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
And it's because there's so little competition in the marketplace for, in other words, if nobody's making noise, it's easy to sing and stand out. And it doesn't even have to be very good. It's just
no.
If you have a decent email list or a decent website with an email list and you go, "Hey, I'm going to give you this free little whatever," I'm like, you're a genius in massage world.
Right. Yeah. Which is really funny because, I mean, as far as marketing goes, I mean, good God, that's so 2003, right? I mean, I remember when all that stuff started to happen, but that's no different than, when I was looking in the bodybuilding magazines when I was, 18 years old, and Dave Draper had a mail order course, you had to call him to get his week, his monthly newsletter, and it was all the secrets, so it was really hokey ad copy at the time. It was really like Dan Kennedy, school of direct marketing or direct mail, but it's no different. These things haven't changed really. The tactics, the methodology of how you do this hasn't changed. The problem for us in our industry is that it's such a face-to-face industry. And so people get romantic about the face-to-face thing. It's actually one of the things that I've really had to kind of wrap my brain around since moving, because I didn't know anybody. I legit knew maybe 6 people in Minnesota when I moved. So I had to start my practice all over again. and luckily I'm good enough at networking to where I've been able to, go from zero to where I'm at today relatively quickly. But I want to scale more because, I mean, this market will support, more. I mean, it'll support me a lot better. And so one of the things that I have to really wrap my brain around is like, okay, so now I can't be romantic about how I used to do it, because I want to scale. Like I want to get to another level relatively soon in my practice, so then I can do dumb stuff in my coaching practice. So then I can spend $3,000 on the alt MBA, and spend $700 for 100 days of the marketing seminar, and start to go build myself and start to take things in that realm as well. So yeah, I mean, like people, we just get romantic about it because really our business primarily in the beginning is built off of this human contact, or this interface and interaction. And people don't understand that people will get a good feel of you off of your free content if you provide value.
Yeah. I tell students this all the time, if they get on Facebook Live and they explain where the bicep is, and they explain its origin and insertion, you are now a medical professional.
Absolutely. Right, yeah. Yeah, and do something really crazy and talk about an infraspinatus that they can't even spell. Now you sound like a quantum physicist, right?
But it's also the personality. There's so much that comes out of, they got to see your face, they got to hear you talk, they form an opinion in 5 seconds.
Yep.
Did they like it or they not like it? And they go, wow, okay, what's the information? Wow, that was actually useful information. I didn't know that. If you can do that repeatedly, to me, that's the follower, the fan, the person that even if they don't come to see you for a session, do they share your videos, promote you amongst their friends and family who may be looking for your service? Because if you're constantly like a ticker tape rolling in the background, when somebody finally needs a massage, who are they going to call?
Yeah, and the thing is that we get so hung up on our likes and shares, right, and engagement. But there's a ton of people who lurk, right, that don't let you know that they're actually watching. And so, you don't know. I mean, like when you see that there's 100 people or 150 people or 200 people or whatever it is, however many people that are watching the feed, well, if you get 10% of those 100 that like it, that's 10 people, right? But there's also another 90 people that have looked at it. And so you don't know what those people are thinking. And just because they don't like it, it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't value the content. It's just that's not what they do. Or maybe the video that you just posted or the content that you just posted didn't hit them the right way. Like I talk a lot about in my coaching practice, like smallest viable market, right? I've said that 17,000 times, and I'll say it another 17,000 times. I have a lady who's followed my stuff for like the last 4 years, and then like all of a sudden one post, she was like, oh my gosh, this was a fantastic post. And I'm like, I mean, I've said this a billion ways at different times. As a matter of fact, we've had a conversation about it on FaceTime. Like, why now? Because you don't ever know where they're at. And you don't...
Repetition in education.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, and people, they're just not necessarily where we are. Not that it's like a superior status. It just means that people and their capacity to process information always comes from where they're at.
Correct. Yeah, and their experience with it. And one of the things that I try and really talk to my coaching clients about, because we need leaders in our industry. I mean, there's a stark, disproportionate, lack of leaders in our industry. Nobody wants to step up and be like, kind of pop their head up, and say, hey, I'm here, right? And so one of the things that I talk to my coaching clients about, and even the people that I mentor, like in the beginning, you're a service provider because that's the only thing that you can do. But, if you've been in practice for, 3, 4, 5 years, you have the potential to go from service provider to educator. And then when you go from service provider to educator, eventually, potentially, you have the possibility of becoming a thought leader in your community. And that role of thought leader, and you don't have to be a thought leader for everybody, by the way. You can be a thought leader for 5 people. It doesn't matter. But that role of thought leader elevates your status, and it changes the way people talk about you. And I think that it's such they just don't understand it. Like, I've gotten to do so many things because that's just the natural evolution of how I've done stuff. And it didn't dawn on me until, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years ago, before I started coaching, like kind of what I was doing and what I just do. And it's not that I'm special, it's just kind of part of my nature, you know? I mean, but it's not something that like nobody can learn how to do. It's just, they just don't understand it's possible, and they don't understand the benefit of that.
You just have to be, for education, you just have to be a step ahead of the students.
Yeah.
And when it comes to a therapist teaching clients, usually, unless they're in a medical field, they don't know a lot about basic anatomy and physiology. So to me, it's like a low-hanging piece of fruit. Like, well, why do your pecs get tight? Why do people? And it's like, oh, you're sitting on a posture, you know, your pecs are shortened. That sort of information also kind of funnels out into people's self-care. When they understand, oh, the car has oil in it, we have to get it changed regularly, they're more likely to create a market for people to do oil changes. Now, it doesn't mean that people can't use their own oil. Now, if you're anything like me, when's the last time you changed the oil in your own car?
1995, I think, you know?
No, one, I'd have to have the tools, the know-how, the equipment, the time, you got to dispose of the oil, something to catch it in. I'm like, you do it.
Right.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing, but I feel like the process of education, the process of teaching them, the process of sharing through social media, email lists, whatever, it shows that you care. And that it shows your audience, the people that want to work with you. Wow, Cindy like actually cares about me and my household and my family, my community. But when you create a video like this, they're more likely to be able to share it easily because they can just like and push buttons and go, hey, mom, check this out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such an important thing. I mean, like, and it's, by the way, it's what you went to school for. Like, they didn't teach you all that crap in school just so you could do nothing with it. You know, I mean, like, there's a reason for it. Now, you know, people get really, you know, and the other problem is that people assume that everybody else knows what they know. So like my friend Marcia, oh my gosh, you know, there's been a lot of cool things about moving to Minnesota, but being able to work on a, you know, daily basis side by side with her, because she's a Pilates instructor. And so being able to work with her is just incredible, because I get to hear what she's talking about with her clients, because I'm not in a room anymore and she's not in a room. So it's open space and we banter back and forth. And listening to the things that she talks to her clients about, I've learned more about biomechanics in the last 6 to 9 months. We actually get together and meet on Fridays for an hour, where we're actually creating a continuing education course as well. And so we meet, we discuss kind of like how it's going to lay out, and we kind of go back and forth as far as like what material is going to be in. And so part of that is, and my big reason that I want to create this course for her is not like I need something else to do, is because she's really smart, she's really good, and she has a really interesting way of building like material and teaching. And I actually eventually want this course just to be hers, because it's probably 70% of her material. But when you have, you know, when you're able to kind of elevate your knowledge, and you're able to help your clients out, and the thing is that the role that I took a long time ago, and this actually happened when I traveled with a nationally competitive boys soccer team for 3 seasons, and so I worked with a lot of elite level youth athletes in Michigan, and I recognized one of the big things that they had is that A, nobody believed them, and then B, nobody taught them how to advocate for themselves. And that's one of the big roles that we have as practitioners, is that we can potentially teach our clients how to advocate for themselves. And so that education is such a vital part of a value-added service. It's the step above, because it's easy to spread lotion, say, you know, Mrs. Jones, it's time for you, you know, session's up, take your time getting them off the table. I'll see you in the lobby or wherever, right? And then you reschedule them next week, and you don't give them any home care or self-care, and you don't educate them about the thing. And when they say, you know, well, why are you there? Well, because I just felt it was the good place to be, right? Not actually having anything to talk to them about, and bringing their own level of education up about their body, because then that's actually that's a retention strategy. You've now just helped this person understand their body. Why are they going to leave you again? I mean, for someone who might not do that, you know?
When I even worked at the chiropractor's office, this has been 5-6 years ago. No, actually not that long. How long has it been? No, 5-6 years. That's right. Okay. So in complete private practice, but before that time, I worked for them, and I was building my own practice on the side. And one of the things I figured out was people would come in with the same thing, like it was Groundhog Day. I would work on them. They would feel better, soft tissue stuff. And then I would go, oh man, you can take a tennis ball and put it in your infraspinatus and like move it around and make it, do self-massage or whatever. And then it finally dawned on me, why don't you just make a YouTube video? And I would make a YouTube video and give them a link. And here's what happened. My tips went up.
Yeah, sure.
They were like, whoa. Clients, they would say, they're like, I've never had a massage therapist educate me before.
Right.
And I went, wow. Like a therapist didn't even like walk up to a wall chart and say, listen, this is this muscle right here. It seems to be really tight, but you can work on this some yourself, in between sessions, something like that.
Yeah.
Like that being a revelation was like wonderful for my practice and also very disheartening.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I do with my clients, first thing they come in the door, hey, how are you doing? What do you notice from, what do you notice from this session to the last session? Have them kind of tell me, okay, show me your homework. Let's start there because I'm going to figure out right away whether you're doing it or not. So if the outcomes aren't good, we've already had the discussion of if you want these things to change, you have to do this on your own. Like my goal is to empower you. My goal is to empower my clients. My goal is not to not make my clients dependent upon me. My goal is to have my clients recognize that they're spending money on me and it's a value, and that we are exploring different things every time, Yeah. So, yeah, I mean.
There's nuance, and if you can create a practice where the clients enjoy the service you provide, but you're working with them instead of on them, I think what it allows for you and I is it allows some creativity where we can tweak and look into the realms to continue kind of growing with our client base as opposed to just feeling like just a strict service provider.
Yeah, and by the way,
I do what my clients tell me to do.
Yeah. By the way, I don't actually know what I'm doing until it works. Like, I have no idea. When you come in the door and you tell me you have X, Y, and Z going on, I have a theory. I don't know that it's going to work.
Yeah.
And the only way that we know that it's going to work is if we do it, and then you go do it at home and you come back and you tell me. I mean, like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed, I had some like preconceived notions like we all do. And I used to think that big businesses were efficient and big businesses could innovate and change rapidly. And once I had my own home practice in my garage, I'm like a jet ski. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Let's go over here. Okay, this is interesting. Let's go over here. And then I looked at large schools and organizations and professional organizations, Massage Magazine, these places, and it was like they could turn a wheel and it was like a tanker.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa, like I can innovate more rapidly because, like you said, I don't have low overhead.
Right.
I can change things and create services that were more standout. Because for me, that thing with the odd duck, that little food truck, they could have easily just served up tacos. There's a million tacos in Austin. And trust me, they'll still make money if they're good tacos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They went through this certain thing. They're like, no, we want to do farm to table, and we want to do more like artisanal, local, like multiple courses, not like big meals, but little serving size, kind of tapas sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But they create their own little market that is much more challenging to replicate. And I keep trying to get therapists to do that, but I think, again, there's so many steps because it's not just body work. It's like business, marketing, advertising, sales, ad copy, video, like there's all these layers. So it seems like this insurmountable task. But inevitably, I always get to this. The students are like, well, what should I do? And I go, what do you want to do?
Right. Let's try something.
What do you want to do? Not what the teacher tells you to do. What do you want to do? What kind of clients what kind of practice do you want? Because they can manifest their real dream, their real vision. That's where the money is. Because it's not
for sure.
Clients, it's both.
Yeah. So my son recently quit doing guitar instruction, and he's been doing this for like the last 7 years. And I said, okay, so you have this vision of doing production, music production, like that's what you want to do. Okay, cool. All right, now you've quit doing this other thing before that we were doing. So that was the direction that you went in for the last 7 years. Okay, now we're pointing you in this direction. Go. I don't know what's going to happen. Because if you would have told me 7 years ago when you first picked up your guitar and we took you to the first guitar lesson with Corey, his old guitar instructor, that we would be here talking about production, I would have told you you're out of your mind at 13 years old, right? But the important thing is you point yourself in a direction and go and see what happens. And so, you need to have this, well, what do you want to do? What type of clients do you really enjoy working with? And the odd thing is nobody's had that conversation with them. Nobody's given them permission. Really, as a coach, that's my role. I just give people permission to do what they want to do. That's what I do.
When I started in education, I thought I taught technique.
Yeah, no.
When I started doing this, I was teaching business.
Yep.
And then after I was doing both of these, here's what I had to teach. Self-esteem.
Yep.
I had to work with a whole room of students and go, do you love yourself?
Right.
Do you want to live your life? The life that you want to create that's not dictated by your parents or authority figures or whatever, and you want to live in the Bahamas or whatever, because you got to go create it.
Right. Yeah, I just did this on Friday with a coaching client. I know her from some continuing ed, and she's a great lady. She just opened up her own Pilates studio, and she wanted to increase her fees. And so her husband sits in on the call. I think he thinks it's funny, right? Because I always bust her chops about stuff, right? And she can take it, by the way. So she was like, well, I want to increase my fees. And I'm like, okay, so let's do it. Why? Like, what? Look, you're charging $65 an hour. The area that she lives in is not, I was charging that 18 years ago, right? The area that you live in, by the way, is not destitute and poor. You have disposable income in the area that she lives in, right? It's not like, the middle of nowhere, Texas. It's closer to like the suburbs of Austin than it is, to the middle of nowhere, Texas. There's not like population 5 and the income is, $5,000 a year. That's not the case. I was like, so I said to her, I was like, I want you to think about this. You tell me that a lot of your clients have 2 homes. They have 2 homes, not 1, 2. That means they have money, right? You don't have 2 homes if you don't have money. So the $10 an hour that you're going to increase your fee, they're not going to miss it because they have 2 homes that they travel to, And so it's just giving her permission to have that courage. And it's scary, because you think but it's like, I break it down to math. Like if you let's say they see you once a week, it's $40. That's $480 a year. For people who have 2 homes, they're not going to miss $480 a year because they spend that in cleaning supplies. So, well, hey man, I got to run. I got to go make some dinner here. So, I'm super glad that we did this. We, anytime you want to do it, let's do it again.
I've just been busy with a million tasks. We'll definitely do this again.
Yeah, it was good, man. It was fun.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.